We'll start.
So my brother texted me, says he's not done, so I'm trying to figure out all
You guys are good, okay? So, good morning, yay, our last session of the day, right? So, we'll get through this. This team's gonna be super exciting to listen to. So, one last time you're gonna hear this boring thing that all of us have read to you for the last 2 days, so I apologize. My name is Dawn Foofman, I sit on the board of directors for PBIS. I'm from Somerset County, and I'm a liaison in Somerset County as well. So if you guys need anything throughout the session, let me know. If you're hot, if you're cold, you can't hear, anything like that, let me know and I'll try to adjust that for you. We do ask you to turn your cell phones off or to vibrate during the session, so that would be helpful. And then the PBIS app and the family are approved Act 48 social work credit providers. In order for you to receive your credit for the session, participants must be present for the entire session. I will be the one that's going to scan you at the end of the session, so please make sure that I get you. And even if you're not getting any credits, it still helps for us to scan you. That way it helps to let us know how many we had in session. So we'd appreciate either way if we could scan you. And if anybody didn't know, I'm sure it's a little late, but checkout's at 1. So if you haven't, you're panicking, don't panic. It's still 1. So you guys are good with that. Your session and conference surveys are available electronically. So please visit the POSAP website, which is posap.org, or the PAMLY website, which is pamly.org. And at the conclusion of the session, that's where you'll complete your surveys and the entire conference to complete it at the end. You have 5 days according to the Act 48 and social work guidelines. So if you want the credits, you'll have to do that within 5 days. And then again, it also assists the speakers in the future conference planning. That being said, I have 3 wonderful people here that I'm going to introduce. The first one is Sarah Cope. Sarah is a 20-year veteran math teacher at Elizabeth Forward High School. In addition to her work inside the classroom, Mrs. Cope also serves as the school's SAP coordinator and co-leader for the PBIS Universal Team. Before coming to Elizabeth Forward in 2007, Ms. Cope was a consultant at Kaplan, Inc. and a teacher at Cicero, I apologize. North Syracuse School District in Syracuse, New York. Ms. Cope earned her Bachelor's of Art with a major in mathematics and her certification for secondary education from Thiel College. She then continued her education at the State University of New York, Oswego. Yep. There you go. For her Master's in Education in Curriculum and Instruction. So this is Sarah.
Good morning.
The next gentleman we have Anthony Popowitz.
It's obviously me.
Obviously. And Anthony is an assistant principal of the Elizabeth Forward School District. The school has been recognized for the implementation of the PBIS with fidelity for the past 3 years. Previously experiences that Mr. Popowitz has includes administrative stints at the Keysport Area School District and Baltimore County School Districts. Prior to administration, Mr. Popowitz taught social studies in Washington County, Maryland schools. His undergraduate degree is from St. Vincent College for philosophy and education. He earned his master's in education from Frostburg State University. After returning to Pittsburgh, he earned his superintendent's papers from California University of Pennsylvania and is currently doing a doctorate student at Point Park University. His research focuses on the efforts of the schools that implement PBIS in fidelity. After years of experience in being a leader who specializes in discipline and student management, his interests have taken a turn toward the proactive model of PBIS and student supports. So this is Mr. Popowitz. And then last but not least is Katie Geis. Katie is a special education teacher with the Elizabeth Forward School District. A large portion of her teaching career so far has been spent teaching the emotional support population. In her current position at Elizabeth Forward High School, Katie provides academic support for the English department. Katie is very proud to be a part of the PBIS core team and enjoys her role as the high school's Renew facilitator. Katie received her Bachelor's of Arts in Elementary Education from LaRoche College and her Master's of Education in Special Education 7 through 12 from Slippery Rock University. Katie is certified in Elementary Education K through 6, Special Education Pre-K through 12, and Mid-Level Mathematics 6 through 9. She also has an autism endorsement Pre-K through 12. So welcome. Thank you. We're
really just here this morning to tell you our story and how we brought together PBIS and SAP over the past few years. Just so that you kind of get a feel, we are not your traditional team. We kind of never take the traditional steps to get to where we are, but we always seem to find things that work for us and our success. So as we go forward, she did a wonderful job introducing us and the team that we brought here today. We each have our own little piece and why we were here selected, because it's a unique group and we always have had a unique group working with us. Let me tell you a little bit about Elizabeth Forward for those of you who are not familiar with it. We are in the very southern end of Allegheny County. So we are a small district at tip end where we actually have a very rural feel to it. You can see we have 763 students currently at the high school, and we are 95% white. So we don't have a lot of minority population within our district itself. 13.25% is special education, but where we have a very large population is our economically disadvantaged. We have a lot of families that come from steel mill families where the steel mills have now shut down and they're trying to recover within the area. So we do have quite a bit of poverty going on. And currently we do have a dropout rate of 1.6%.
We're also bordered by two of the toughest towns around. So Clayton on one side, McKeesport on the other. We're certainly experiencing a growing shift in demographics on that.
I think it's also important to know that we have some things that have brought in students in the recent years. We started a one-to-one initiative where all of our students K through 12 have either iPads minis or iPads themselves. So that is a big attraction to families coming in. So when they start to look at the small area around the southern end of Allegheny County, they land in Elizabeth Forward because we are offering those opportunities to our students.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of go over the overview of what PBIS is. And I'm used to being in a classroom with high school students. So if you can make me feel at home, every once in a while look up from your phone and give me one of those, roll your eyes at me, make a disgusted face, and make me feel like I'm back at home. So that would be great. So PBIS stands for Positive Behavior Interventions and Supports. And PBIS is very much ingrained into everything that we do. It drives every decision, basically, that we make, and it branches itself out further than the building. It's a community-wide thing, and we reach out to families and bring everything together. Coming from a district that did not have PBIS implemented, I had heard of it in my previous district. We had talked about it. I knew what it was, but I remember thinking, like, I don't really know what that is or what, how much of a difference it could make. When I was hired by Elizabeth Forward and saw what that means and what it is, the difference is unbelievable. The first thing I noticed, or the first day that my feet hit the ground, was that the morale amongst the kids and the faculty is 100% different than where I previously was. And other things factor in there too, but it really is a positive place to be. People are happy to be there, not all the time, but it is a nice feel, it gives a nice feel to the building. So PBIS gives a proactive approach to the discipline. Prevent things by teaching the behaviors and demonstrating for the kids what the behaviors are that we want to see in every aspect of the building, in the hallways, in the cafeteria, when they get off the bus, when they get onto the bus, not just in the classroom during an academic lesson. There's a 3-tiered model, and we'll talk more about each tier and what that means in a little while. PBIS is not a set curriculum. So you're not going to go on Amazon, put it in your shopping cart, box comes to the school, and Dr. T pops out, and poof. It kind of sometimes feels like that's how it happens.
Hey, maybe that's something we could market.
Let's market that. I like that idea.
Yeah.
Dr. T in a box.
So that's not what you get. You make it work for what you're already doing, and the decisions you're already making, the things you're already modeling for the students, you weave that in with everything. So let me make sure I didn't miss anything. Team decisions, you're using data to drive your decisions. We look at all the data and we decide what we need to hit, and it's different all the time. When we have our meetings, something that was a problem last week isn't a problem anymore, but man, something crept up in its place and we really need to hit it right away. And meeting weekly, then we're able to get to it quickly before anything else escalates from there.
So the importance of blending the SAP team and the PBIS team, I didn't quite understand at first. I came to Elizabeth Ford 3 years ago. I think this is my third school year there. Came from 5 years administrative at Keysport. Our SAP team, although it was an area of high need, really it was just two options. Was this child going to meet with the guidance counselor once a week? Or was this child going to be referred to what we call MONYOC, which is a community-based organization? That was it. MONYOC, that's how actually literally how the meetings would go. MONYOC, counselor, MONYOC, counselor. And you're talking about an area double economically disadvantaged. I grew up there, so you know a lot of these families I knew their personal plights. It still didn't quite get or was on board with the PBIS team, and I think Dr. T could attest to this. Coming from that background, coming from Baltimore County, I was used to dealing with MS-13. I was used to dealing with Bloods and Crips gangs. I probably have more suspensions under my belt than I could imagine anyone at this conference. Once expelled 8 students in one day after they physically attacked me and a bunch of my teachers. So I was used to a different sort of environment. So getting bought in to the PBIS took a while for me. All right, it did take a while. So high school kids aren't going to buy into these things. But what are some of the important things about this that did make me buy in? Accountability. You know, gone are the days of just being able to suspend everyone you want and clear house. So for me to take some of this data to whether it's IEP meetings, whether it's parent meetings, whether it's the SAP meeting themselves, you know, we have true data on where the issues are, how we can prevent them, how we can help the kid. Assessment. That's obvious. There's a variety of assessments that we had in our SAP program. But it wasn't correlating over to what Katie mentioned with the tier 2 and 3 students. And the philosophy behind PBIS is you have a triangle of students. 85% of your kids are going to do it when taught. 15% for your tier 2 students are going to need multiple teaching, multiple redirections, and then 5 to 8% of your top of the triangle are going to need intensive interventions. All right, so how do we blend these? And I started buying more and more into the PBIS system. The universal supports were everywhere. Kids were getting rewarded. We had special needs students running businesses, being part of the groups. The bullying was almost none. And that was a far cry from when I was in high school, when I knew the Elizabeth Ford kids, and I didn't like them much because they were mean, like kind of bully, snotty kids. So what was the school doing right? It was PBIS. Then we had the SAP team that was functioning at a high level. We had behavioral health, and we'll talk more about the specific services later in the presentation. But it wasn't just counselor, MONYOC, counselor, MONYOC. It just wasn't that. They were doing, but we had to integrate these two systems. We needed quality control. So we would have kids with extensive wraparound services, but we did not know or have any proof that they were getting better academically, behaviorally, or attendance. We wanted to improve. All right, so PBIS, we were at the initial levels of fidelity in our universal supports, our tier 1. How could we do tier 2 and tier 3? The answer is we had to merge all of this. Currently, I'm studying high school PBIS, so there's not a lot of literature on that, but particularly the effects on school climate, which is also a very under-researched area. This is the best article I've found if you want to scan that. It's by Catherine Bradshaw. She's one of the seminal researchers. There is so much in there that if you're thinking about PBIS, if you're thinking about a SAP PBIS blend, if you're thinking, like, if you want to see what are some of the reasons we've been so successful, it's because we followed this. Some of these with the fidelity, the stages, the administrator support. We just didn't think, you know, it's like a 50-page article or something like that. We didn't want to waste the paper if we didn't want to read it. But I do encourage you to read that research. It's a nice summary of Bradshaw's work. And again, she's one of the seminal people in the PBIS. Did I miss anything?
So let me take you through the timeline of what happened, and again, this is kind of where it will really show what a unique group we have at Elizabeth Forward. Prior to us looking into PBIS, in the community, we lost a student. The student had overdosed, and the community kind of blew up in terms of it was bullying, it was suicide, it was, how everything was going, and, it was just kind of really even the beginning of social media and taking off, but it really lit fire to the community. So they came back to the school board, what are you gonna do about this? How are you gonna address this in your schools? What is going on there? And the administration at that point researched and said, let's try this PBIS program. This research-based, we can go ahead and run with it. So over some summer work, the administration selected some teachers and they kind of did a little bit of background work, and then they rolled it out in the fall of 2012. So we have our consultant in place, all the teachers there for back to school, and we come up with BRAVE as our logo. So BRAVE stands for our Be Safe, Accountable, Respectful, Victorious, and Enthusiastic. So those are going to be our 5 main principles that we push for our students every day. And this was all teacher grounded. These were the teachers who came up with this, so we were a little bit behind. We're going on, we're doing all the kind of background work. We got multiple committees. One committee's looking at rewards, one's looking at expectations. We've got one looking at systems, like all different things going on. It's great, it's all behind the scenes. Next fall, we're gonna roll it out to the students, no problem. Until the school board came in. School board came in January and said, okay, it's going so great, let's go out to students now. And we all went, what? Wait, what? So we had to come up with a way that we could roll this out to students, even though we weren't even fully prepared to do so, because we hadn't had a chance to do all of the background work that it takes to put this in place. So we rolled out as a large group set of expectations. So we pushed out just the generic matrix of our expectations, and we kind of pitted the classes against one another. And we actually had a class report card where they would get grades for how they were doing versus behavior and academics and attendance and all those real basic kind of things that you want out of your students. And that kind of took our role for it. But at least it pushed it out, it gave us a chance. We started to introduce it to parents, we started to introduce it to our students to get things familiar. We're still continuing our work in the background. By that fall then, in 2013, we were ready to roll it out to the students. We also had some new leadership in place. We changed out a principal and brought in our current principals. Lots of support. We have tremendous administration support, and that is one of our tools to success. We also started tracking our data. We use Swiss as one of our tracking data implementations. We'll be talking about those in a moment. And then we started our individual rewards. We use a Brave Buck system, which is like Principals 100, where teachers go and they hand them out, make that connection, make that relationship with their students. As we progress on, we're now into year 3. This is where we are feeling real good, and our PBIS program is really starting to make a change and an impact in our building. You're starting to hear the language within the students and the staff, and we are up for Tier 1 fidelity. So after 3 years of this very quick implementation, we reached that Tier 1 fidelity. We also started, because we were now attending and getting ourselves ingrained in all these PBIS conferences, reaching out to other schools, we started to find other tools. And one of the tools that we found is Renew. And Renew is a Tier 3 intervention. But for us, it came to us through PBIS. So at this point, we're still kind of like hand-picking students to maybe go into Renew. We really don't have the overall picture. And all this time, over those 3 years, SAP's over here in the back corner going, guidance counselor, Monyac, guidance counselor, Monyac, just like Pop said. They weren't touched. They just kind of kept running their own system. So once we got through Tier 1 fidelity, we started to look at other things that we needed. We needed student voice. So we created a Brave Bunch where we have a group of students who kind of serve as our committee within the kids, bring us back information, they help us push out projects, expectations, they make us videos, and we hear a lot of ideas from them. We also brought in another PBIS intervention at check in, check out. So PBIS brought us another tool. We started and split our data collection to a second system for ABE. One was teacher-driven and one is office referral-driven. And then we started our realignment of SAP. So Susan came in, she gave some training, brought in the SAP. PBIS and SAP were training hand in hand. But we still didn't make a whole lot of movement then. Because we still had a lot of the old personnel still in place for SAP. So there wasn't a lot of changes. Because this is the way it's always been done, this is what it's still going to do. It wasn't until last year where we had some change, where we saw some new personnel. That's where I went. I was the data director, I guess for lack of, data diva I think is the word. Yeah. So I was the data diva on PBIS. I was looking at those kids that they were talking about in SAP every day. You know, I'm logging their office referrals, I'm pulling their information from the teachers. I knew these kids. I didn't sit on SAP. So they were missing a very large piece of information. And they never had the numbers to kind of throw back. This is the quantitative number on these students that we were looking at. Because of change in personnel, our coordinator position opened up. So I said, I'm in. Big time, I'm in. So I kind of hit the ground running with SAP and we made some additional changes. We have a couple different groups. We now have a specific intake group. And we have our case manager, everyone who just kind of feeds in the information. So we've made some changes to SAP. In addition to that, now that we're really running, we're taking those interventions that are in PBIS, the check and check out, the renew, we've got educational groups, we can look at some other structures that are in there out of PBIS, and we use them as we sit around the table now at SAP. So when we have a case that comes to us, instead of saying guidance counselor Monyac, we now say renew, check in, check out. You know, we're looking into a mentoring program. So we now have options that were brought to us from the PBIS branch, and we use them as our SAP tier interventions. What's nice about that is they're not always outside resources, because many people will put on the brakes for SAP when you go into outside resources. This gives us some options that we contain in-house. Renew is in-house, check and check out is in-house. Things that we can keep in-house, no insurance, no barriers like that, where we can still provide support services for these students. So that's kind of where we are now. Oh, and then this is another big one that we have done. We have started Universal Screener this year, and with our 9th graders. So we pulled all of our core 9th grade teachers, and they did the SSRS, I put those letters in the right order, IE. So we are looking at both internal and external factors for these students, and it's allowing us to look at our 9th grade, which obviously is a hard transition year, and we are getting some of those kids that are flying under the radar, but still need services. The ones who are external, we know they show up in the office regularly. It's those ones who may be anxiety or depression that we've now started to pick them up, and we've run that screener so we're getting the students in and services now. So that's another thing.
So, our core team, yes.
So from a SAP perspective, like, are outside referrals still being made? Are kids still getting connected with the mental health levels of care that they need?
Yes.
In addition to the supports at school too?
Yep, and we're gonna break down the tiers a little bit more, and we'll show you, because we even have a unique mental health component beside, that is an outside agency, but it's something that we kind of contain in-house, and we'll be talking about that soon.
Good question, great question. So our core team, that's a picture of our core team, some of us.
This was
We
first
swapped
year.
out, we swapped out,
Okay.
again, the member starts not involved in meetings, but we meet weekly. We have now we've been implementing a very structured meeting, which has been helping us. stay on focus, not admiring the problems that are going on, and really come up with solutions, and then giving everybody a role. So if we have a problem and we suggest a solution, which one of us is going to take care of that? Who's going to send out the staff email? Who's going to get this from the office? Who's going to do this? So we all have very specific roles as part of the core team. We come up with really great ideas. I'm just going to say it, we do. We come up with really good ideas, we're very efficient, and we each bring something really unique to the team. So we have a really good mix of, guidance counselor, administrators, classroom teachers, special educators. So everybody has a unique perspective, and we can kind of play devil's advocate sometimes and get through some things. The data is something that we look at to drive what decisions we make and what we need to be targeting, as I said before. So with the ABE, that is a computer-based system, online-based system, that the teachers themselves get in to track data. So if I have a student that refused to do any work, he was on his cell phone the entire class period, I get into ABE, his name's in there, I put a note. The other staff can see that, so if I get into log it and I see that 3 other teachers have put something in there that day, then that gives me information as a classroom teacher. Like, it wasn't just that he hated what we were reading. Maybe this started in the second period, that teacher made him upset. Also, it shows the administrators, kind of gives them a snapshot. So if somebody comes down in the office, they can get into ABE and see the logs and the dates and the times and what exactly the behaviors were that were going on. The major discipline, the office discipline referrals, those are still on paper. We can complete those, and then those go down to the office to be tracked separately. What else do you want to say about?
I think it's, again, just very important for us to note our administrative support. There is a very, very rare week that goes by where we do not have at least one of our 3 principals in the meeting. Most of the time, it's all 3 of them. And I like to think it's because they just like us that much.
We're very blessed to have this team. I was actually going to lead off of that. Who has PBIS, like at their school? Okay, a lot of you. Who's thinking about it, or whose school's starting to explore it? Whose school has nothing to do with it?
It's not a school.
Or yeah. So if you look at the research shows that one of the most important indicators of PBIS success is administrative support. And I'm not saying me. The guy right there in the middle with the bald head, Mr. Ralph, that is his entire focus of the school. Everything comes secondary. And I truly believe that's why our PBIS at the high school level, there's not a ton of high school that reach our fidelity of implementation, but ours is because of that man and the emphasis he insists that I put on it as well. Like she said, one of us better be at that meeting, if not all 3. It is the fundamental driving force of our school in everything that we do. Now, let me ask another question. Who's ever been to Elizabeth for a tour? Oh, wow, I'm surprised, just a couple of you, because I have tours all the time, okay? I've guys from Singapore come through because we have the one-to-one iPad, people from Chicago, California. We're in all these digital leagues that our superintendent and assistant superintendent have made us, if you will, famous in education throughout the country. I'm talking every week I have a tour from another state of people coming to see the inventive, the innovation. We have a Maker Lab, one of the top in the country. We're one of the founding Digital League of Innovative Schools. Our assistant superintendent was named. I could go on and on about our technology and what we do for kids, but really, at the high school level, what we do, the importance of what we do is PBIS. Bullying has almost disappeared. The atmosphere is great. Our kids walk around drinking lattes on their cell phones. You would think you're at this campus. Okay, maybe once in a while I'll have a little Facebook or whatever the kids use, a little issue, but they use it appropriately because of the behavior expectations we have in place, but because of the commitment. It's all about the commitment. You can't go in half. If you go in half, you might as well not do it all. Kids will be making fun of your reward systems. Kids will be throwing the lollipop together or whatever. you ready to go to the next slide?
Yeah, almost. On top of that, in admin support, we're also, we have to say, we're pretty well funded, but again, that's Mr. Ralph. When he builds his budget, he builds it so that it's a priority, because he knows that not only does it support PBIS, but it is supporting multiple facets throughout the building. You know, it's very often that we kind of turn that over. Question?
That ABE system,
Mm-hmm.
I see like your, expected behaviors, which we also have. It says up there that you, like, a teacher can document that in the classroom, but like yours, we also have cafeteria, restrooms, bus.
You can document
You
anywhere.
can document
Yes.
anything. So like, bus drivers are in that,
Um,
counselors are in that.
Not bus
Counselors-
drivers, but counselors.
Counselors, yes. Bus drivers, we just kind of use a back-end system
Sure.
where
We usually do.
they report it in and then we just
Okay,
log
but it is
it.
collecting all of these restrooms and everything.
Yes, yeah, you know, if there's an issue, any teacher, you know, our cafeteria duty teachers have gone in and logged an incident that happened in the cafeteria. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the classroom.
Okay, just wanted to check.
It's a great tool for our special ed teachers because they will go in and they'll log notes that maybe it's not something necessarily even that is something that we need to be tracking behavior-wise, but it's something that, hey, this connection was made, you know, whether I reached out to mom, this is some information that people should need because everybody sees everything. So a science teacher will see what's going on in that kid's social studies class. And it will allow them to see multiple.
And I've actually heard teachers talk to each other. So why is Freddie so good with you? What do I do? You hear those conversations passing as an assistant principal. That makes you really proud. They're being proactive. They're saying, you know, instead of Mr. Popples, throw them out. You know, that, what can I do better? What can, you know, and I see that you haven't written them up all year. He's an angel for you. He's torture for me. What can I do? I wanted one more thing about the administrative support. The most important, after that, empowering your team. We have the best team, hands down. I mean, if we ever do say no, it's because they have so many ideas and so many initiatives that we don't want them to take kind of their eye off the prize, if you will. You know, between Sarah, Katie, you see Lance and Mark up there, and some others. We have actively sought, Katie came on with me a couple years ago, you were hired at the same time. We actively seek out the best apples in the school and offer them whatever we can. Sometimes it's not much. Sometimes I'll free you up of your duty sometimes. Sometimes we just cover you for the meeting, you know, but supporting that to lead the school. Do you guys remember a few years ago, there used to be those school improvement committees, if you didn't meet, No Child Left Behind, with the, you know, all that sort of thing. This is our school improvement committee. This is our wellness committee. This is our every committee. Everything fits under it. And that was difficult. That was difficult to make happen, especially with the personalities on the side. I think
That's two more, I think.
The things that we do for the students, you know, the rewards and the little things like that, I mean, it helps and it's wonderful. There's also a staff component to that. The PBIS team does things for the staff too, whether it's just putting snacks in the faculty lounge just so we can take a little break and grab something to eat. Passing out bottles of water when it gets super, super hot and we don't have any air conditioning. Jeans days or an early out, just little things like that to make what we do important.
Pasta bar, just got an email.
Oh, yes.
Because I wrote Brave Bucks. Okay, so we have one of our universal rewards is a Brave Buck. I'm sure we'll get into this. And then they go to a board. If the board flips and wins, like a bingo, the kids all who posted their Brave Bucks there get something. And the staff that wrote it out. So I get to eat pasta lunch Thursday, March 1st. That's awesome because I wrote Brave Bucks. So I'll write Brave Bucks because you can tell I like to eat.
So it encourages the staff to use the rewards because then they have a chance of getting to participate in them.
So let me get into a little bit more just of the SAP structure that we carry now. So we have what we call a focus team. And this focus team meets twice a month now. When we were up and running and really just when we were first starting to run and trying to get grounded, we met every week. And we've kind of been able to step back now at this point because we have found our foundation and we're ready to go. This group is our triage group. So the referrals are coming in from multiple sources, whether it be from teachers, by parent request, admin, guidance, wherever they're coming, this puts us all at the table to talk about the student. And we try to do our best to honor Dr. T's words, don't admire the problem. We know what the situation is, and now we need to find a solution. So it's always making sure that you find what that next step is and what we're gonna do.
Have some of you been on SAP teams where it just turns into this kid, and you know his mom, you know, we try very hard to get away from that. That's a constant problem.
So we are able to refer and get those referrals turned over pretty quick, just because we are meeting twice a month. I have also, as I came in, I was handed this box, and the previous staff coordinator was like, blue sheets are the teacher's referrals, and the green sheets are the parent referrals, and then we have to go and we have to do this in the pink sheet and this, and I'm like, seriously? I'm like,
Thank you so much.
we are a one-to-one school. We are a technology-based school. Those papers get on the teacher's desk and they get shoved under the 12,000 things that they have to grade. You're not going to get them back, and that's what was part of the issue. They had no data on these kids. They had no information on these kids because the teachers wouldn't send it back. We're all electronic now. Everything is Google form. They tell me, I want a referral, I send them the initial referral. I get the kid back, I mass send out to their teachers after I have them on my schedule. Every teacher fills in the Google form, get it back. We have everything on a spreadsheet for progress monitoring. Anytime that there is an interaction with the kids that are now on our SAP loads, the guidance counselor, anyone who has access to this, the Monyac, myself, we just make a log of what was done. Everything is kept electronically. Now we still have some hard copies, and I keep my very meticulous files, but it's nowhere near the paperwork mess that we started with. And so everything's a lot more streamlined and a lot more efficient. In terms of the progress monitoring, that goes along with the spreadsheet that I was just talking about. I create a spreadsheet, and every time we add a student, they get a new page in the spreadsheet. The students there, we track monthly of what is going on academically, behaviorally, and attendance. Just kind of keep some quantitative numbers on them, and we have that running log of what's going on with their services at that time, so everybody can log, or any kind of discipline issues. Everybody knows what's going on with that progress monitoring. We do like to revisit all of those cases quarterly. Are we seeing a dip in the students? Are we seeing them stabilize? Are we seeing them recover, and maybe we can phase them out? So it kind of gives us that little snapshot of what do we want to do now. We're in a new set of 9 weeks. What now with these kids here? So we intake every other week, and then quarterly we review our cases to see what's going on with the kids that are already being managed and serviced in some way. Again, back to that Swiss and those ABEs, I can pull that information very, very quickly, take it to the meeting and say, here's our top 10, for ABEs. And the ABEs are sometimes a little bit more, it's hard to get teachers to document, no matter what you do. It's hard to get teachers to document, but they may not be escalating to the point of the offices. If they're in the office, we already know them. I know them, guidance knows them, admin knows them, we know them. It's those kids that are maybe just kind of tinkering in the classroom, but not getting to the point of having them sent out for the office referral. So those are the kids that we can catch through that ABE system. It's a good discussion to have, what's going on.
Then as administrators, Sarah gives us that data, and we conduct mini trainings. So every part of every faculty meeting for the past few months, I take one of the most emergent behaviors. I find some research or a little article or an exercise on that. If teachers are having problems with kids not being prepared with their iPads or tardies or maybe minor disrespect, and we give them some strategies that they can choose to implement. Also want to say one thing. We did not have a fist fight last year. I just want to say that. We did not have one fist fight. We had a slap this year, but we're almost at the point of going 2 entire years of a high school with 800 kids, 36% economically disadvantaged without a fist fight. I trust it. So it's something that we touted, and it's very indicative of the work that these programs are doing.
And what was it like before?
Oh, regularly. Right, I was the only one that would hear, it was regularly, and they would, set it up in the stairwell where there wasn't any cameras, or they would be, down one of the back hallways, and restrooms would be torn apart, and, we had some really tough times prior to.
There's tough kids in this place, not tough compared to what I'm used to, but there's tough kids there. And they would be rolling around on the ground if we didn't have the support structure. Another component of PBIS, I don't know if we mentioned, is a very consistent, clear, discipline referral system. So they did that in the second year of getting that all straightened out, consistent consequences. We publish that in the handbook. You know what you're going to get for a fight. You know what you're going to get for, not the kids smoke, but smoking in the bathroom or whatever. So clear, consistent discipline is also part of this.
And we now hear it with our kids too, like, our kids don't want to put up with any of that. So when somebody starts to act out, our kids will be like, man, just cut it out. Like, we don't act like that here. And we find that especially as the kids transition in from, say, Clareton or McKeesport, where they're not Elizabeth Forward kids. They're like, cool, that doesn't fly here. And they kind of get on each other now. They shut it down. It's like, you're not phasing us. We're done. We're walking away from you. That's pretty good.
Can I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
Does your middle school have something similar to this, or how do they transition from middle school to high school?
You know what? That's a great question.
They just passed their set 100%.
Absolutely. We are 100% backwards. Nothing normal, again, at Elizabeth Forward. We started in high school. For a long time, for quite a few years, the middle school was doing PBIS. And that kind of phased out, and now they have picked up with PBIS, and like Dr. T said, they just passed, and now we are reaching into one of our elementary schools. So we've worked from top down.
And the set is a very, very true psychometric of the implementation. Like, there are multiple studies, but that's one of the most difficult things to pass with 100%. That's great. So they're following in our line. They see what we do. The entire district believes in it because of what we've done at the high school. So a lot of these PBIS things are very, it sounds like we change them as we go, but they're also very prescriptive. When you get the set, when you get these assessments, and the important part was having Susan on board being our facilitator. Mr. Ralph made some money available in the budget, and we got to have her come in and overview our team. That's hugely important if you want to do it right.
We started to talk, you have a question?
Just looking at your PowerPoint, so are there teachers on your SAP team?
Yes, myself, and that's it, for the most part.
We have case managers.
Well, the case managers are a staff team, but they don't report into our meetings. They report to me, and then I take that information. That helped us get rid of that sewing circle. So, because they're not there to listen and hear all the other case managers report about their cases, and then take all that back and kind of over here to your next teacher down the hallway or whatever. So they report to me, I take it to the team, and then we see if any revisions need to be made. So I have quite a few case managers out there, they just don't physically attend the meetings unless it is something that we really need to do.
And some of the more experienced case managers are also members of our universal PBIS committee. So there's a lot of overlap. And that was one of the difficult things of merging these two together to say PBIS is in charge. This is an offshoot of us.
You can start talking about that, because you're on challenges.
Okay, challenges.
Challenges, talking about our overlap.
Overlap of personnel, and I think Sarah mentioned it. She came in the different colored box and sort of, and I don't want to knock anyone's work. We are all, every single one of us that work in public education are overextended. Friends, doing some things with Sarah's schedule, I think that we got the opportunity for her to take reign of this, to get the case managers reporting to her, for the assistant principals and principal to monitor that the case managers are reporting her in a quantitative and qualitative way. That's helpful to putting that kid in the right intervention. Time, that's always an issue. Again, that goes back to principal support. When he builds that when he builds that master schedule, or whatever that looks like at whatever level, he has to take into account the job of the SAP committee and also the PBIS Universal Committee. What can you give them? Any free month with bus student? I don't know. These are all very specific to your school. Egos? I'm not even gonna get into that. You know, like, I came in, I'm brand new to the school, I'm watching all this from a bird's eye view, and there was a lot of inner battles, you know, that maybe no outward tension, but there was certainly inward tension that you have to mitigate those differences with those people. You know, there's been several times I've had to sit down with a couple different members and lay things out, come up to a resolution, or you know, one of the other principals in the building. You have to talk through these things, and you have to be a skilled mediator to get the people on the same page. When there's tension, you know, like I said, there was not like a fist fight or anything, but there's certainly been some emotional exchanges. But you know what? If it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Getting past this is how we've always done it. The first year I was there, that was like the constant battle between the SAP team and then the people that overlapped for the PBIs. We've always done it that way. I heard that 1,000 times. So we had to tell them, we're going to do it this way. And we did spend, I'm telling you, we spent significant time the summer after I was hired with Dr. T and the entire SAP and PBIS teams organizing this. How it would go, how the focus team would meet, how the universal team would look. And we've had a model since then, but I'm talking about, what was it, 3 or 4 entire days that we did to reorganize this thing to ensure quality delivery in the interventions.
Just a comment to that, because like in our district, we've had a lot of new administrators come in, which is great ideas. But of doing that collaborative approach for so many days, for so many hours, you're still giving respect to the people who were there before, so as they're not going to put up doors to, you know what I mean, to trying to think of it a different way than this has always been done this way. So
right, because one of the most important thing we had to do was we couldn't lose any of these people.
Right, so kudos to you for doing it that way. I just
because they do this on their own time and money half the time. I mean, you know, you can't lose the people that are willing to give the kids. Because you know, you always, just like PBIS, you have that 5% of teachers that go above and beyond out of their own pocket and their own family time to do these things.
And I want to give some credence to our staff liaisons too. We work very closely with 2 that are always at our core team meetings for staff and our focus team meetings, where we have the one that will come in and do our screenings and the other one that actually provides a very unique service called behavioral health counseling in our building as one of our services. And they really adjusted well with the merge and the flow. You know, they were like, okay, you just kind of tell us what you need from us. And they kind of let us figure out where that roadmap was going to be and how that partnership and where their place was. Did a little bit of fill-in training with them, so especially to our screener, who now not only was going to say, well, we're going to put them in school-based or outpatient therapy, instead she can now look through this menu of items for her to choose. Okay, maybe this is a kid that would be good for check in, check out because of what I'm hearing in the screening, or maybe this is someone that we want to catch for renew and place them into that program. So she needed some education herself, and we provided those supports so that she can make appropriate recommendations, which aren't always just send them to school-based or send them to outpatient.
And that was another challenge too. We ended up stealing the supervisor of our partner. Guidance counselor position came open and we hired her because she was so involved with our school teams that she already, it was like, all she basically had to do is learn our scheduling system and credit counts, and she was ready to go. So that was a challenge though, because then we had to work with a new supervisor liaison. All right, so we got the tiers, and for time's sake, I think we're running short. Tier 1 is just your general stuff, you know, your policies, your procedures, support, your expectations, your matrix, all your generalized Tier 1 PBIS interventions. making sure your student handbook is very clear, in line with the discipline policies. We got peer tutoring available. Someone runs with that. We have hardware videos, which are through our media center. Topics like, for example, this week we're hitting respect. So we have 3 little mini videos that the kids made in our studio shooting out about how to respect teachers, how to respect others, how to show respect in the cafeteria, etc. And freshman orientation, parent involvement in the Brave Bucks, I mentioned those. Those are our tangible reward, which if you would tell me 3 years ago I'm going to give a high schooler a Brave Buck and them not laugh at it, I would have said, you're crazy. But they really love these things. Another thing is they get to play a song if they get a Brave Buck in the morning for the entire school. So they really like that, you know, like whether it's a country song or, you know, you gotta watch the songs, like Charlie songs or whatever, they can't be helping that. But, so then our tier 2, those are our more intense interventions once kids are identified through the SAP program or through the focus team. Mentoring, we're looking into a partnership with mentoring. That's going slower than we hoped. But we're okay with that because we realize, like you said, you got to put the right amount of time into things to get the teachers to really buy in, and they're your first line of defense. Administrators are support only. We can't do it. We're just there to take on roadblocks. We do a lot of academic interventions. We run, you know, we talk about academics and counselor sessions. I have one poor counselor who has the rougher half of the alphabet. I don't know, she has 12 to 15 a week standing sessions. I don't know how she does it with testing and everything else that's on her plate, but she does a great job of getting to every one of those kiddos that they specify. We have check-in, check-out. We're gonna pause. We're hitting the pause button. We didn't think it was as effective. The data showed it wasn't as effective. That's where a student would go in with their iPad every period, check in, check out, get a data point or 2 from the teacher. Hey, you really did good. You didn't have your homework. We're pausing that. We're going to rethink of a way to do that just because it wasn't showing that it was effective. Even though research shows, you know, when you talk about tier 2 interventions, like through all Seminole researchers show that at the secondary level, that's one of the most effective interventions. So we're just looking to revamp that this summer. That'll be our focus. And then we have study skills. We also have groups, and I'll be honest, we have to monitor the groups. Okay, we have SAP liaisons running groups. We have SAP case managers running groups. We have counselors running groups. They have to be curriculum based. You know, we had too many chiefs. What's the saying? Too many Indians, not enough chiefs with the groups. And it's very difficult to answer a conversation. What have you done for my child? I specifically mentioned girl bullying is a problem. And you know somewhere along the line that you had a girl bullying group, but you can't answer that person. Well, we can answer that. I could tell you, pull up her spreadsheets and say, you know, little Sarah met with the bullying group last Friday, last Tuesday, you know, and she has 6 more because now I haven't put my hands on the curriculum. So having the PBIS team, having that structure has also cleaned up some of the willy-nilly stuff that you just don't have time to know. Tier 3 interventions, we mentioned Renew, that's one-on-one mapping of your future behavior, academics. We are working on the FBA. Of course, that's usually a special ed term, but we're thinking about more for our Tier 3 students. How is that going to look? I know Sarah and some of the other people put in for another grant that will try to expand our Tier 3 over the course of this year. And interagency collaboration. Of course, we work with wraparound services and everything like that.
Just a quick question with the, excuse me, parent permission with your Tier 2 stuff, because you have a lot of Tier 2 practices. I mean, we have very similar with our PBIS right now that we would not be seeking parent permission for.
We do.
But you do, and that's what I was going to say. As soon as you have that SAP overlap, you kind of have that expectation of doing that. So, like,
we are the most communicative school in the world. Like, I would hate it to have been a teacher at my school, because the first thing you ever get from me is call home. What did the parents say? I mean, you know, everything is logged. Every time you speak with a parent in conversation, so it's almost just natural the way we operate, because the parents are always in the know. It's like, hey, I'm going to send this form home with Jimmy today. They send it back.
We do that. What we say, we inform them of what we're doing in a lot of the cases, but we don't necessarily seek the permission back. Now, on a SAP referral, we absolutely would seek the permission back. But like, we're putting a kid in check out, we're like, hey, due to this and the explanation, and the reality is most probably would sign off, but we do have some like mentoring groups and stuff where we've had parents
More
say,
passive
yeah,
consent. Right.
so.
Yeah.
We do.
I don't, we're better safe than sorry. I guess that's probably the only reason we run it that way, you know?
I think, you know, there are some things that we are hardcore, we have separate parent permission forms. Renew being one of those programs that Kate is going to be talking about. When we did check-in, check-out, we made sure we had specific. My initial SAP parent permission is kind of like a checklist. Like, we've intake this student, we think it might be here, 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 and then we'll get back to you and let you know which one. So the parent almost kind of signs off on everything blanket. It doesn't mean that we're gonna use all of it, but it means that we have the blanket permission to do something.
But you only do that after the referral comes in.
Right,
So
after.
it's not like at the beginning of the school.
Right, groups, we don't always take all of those group students and run them through our intake meetings at Focus. That usually is generated, we can do that with a smaller group, just a couple guidance counselors, maybe a little bit of admin, and then that's why we send out a different parent permission form, because they haven't been run through the whole SAP
Okay.
parent permission.
When do you run your groups and how long usually?
You want?
Well,
me to do it? I can-
it's all over the place, so it's up to that individual person, but usually we, Sarah or myself will say, I want your dates by Friday. Like, you have to pin them down. So, you know, if, for example, my most senior guidance counselor, he likes to run his groups at 11:30, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So he sent me his, you know, so we leave it up to that person, or if you have a community liaison running them, they're running in your building sometimes. But we get it in writing, so we really leave it up to when they can, but we also ensure we switch it up.
So they're missing academic time?
Right, so, you know, if I see everyone's pulling off third period, I can, you know, hey, this kid's, you know, everyone's missing third period, we gotta, what else works?
Yeah, and we do, when I establish the schedule, especially, you know, with the liaison, since they're not in the building, guidance counselors typically handle a lot more of it on their own schedule, but we go through, okay, so you're here on Mondays, we're gonna run period, for us, it's like period 2, period 3, period 8 are good ones, because they're not very beginning, not very end, but they're not lunch periods either, so, and we will rotate them. You have an 8-week curriculum, this week is that period, this one, so it's all on a rotation basis, so it's not that they're always missing that same class every week. So, yeah, okay, so Mr. Bobowitz did talk a lot about our tier 2 and our tier 3 interventions. I am gonna let Katie, well, actually, let me talk about a very unique tier 2 intervention that we have. We have what we call behavioral health counseling, and this is a unique agreement between the Elizabeth Forward School District and the Montauk Community Health Services. They send someone to our building twice a week, and they pull students to work on a one-to-one basis where they can work on goal setting. She'll pull their grades, she'll look at different things that are going on with them academically. She does do a little bit of counseling. She is a licensed professional, but she's not running this through insurance. So it allows us often, for those parents who have insurance barriers, again, we see that a lot with our socially economic disadvantaged students, where they can't find someone who will take their insurance, there's not someone in the area, they don't have transportation to get somewhere. This is a way for them to be able to meet and get some goal-oriented skill building. And that is what our agreement with her is. So we see her twice a week that she's in, and she pulls students. So that's one of our recommendations. How do you pay for that? That is district funded. That's one of the things that we have worked into our agreement with the Montauk when we established our contract with them as part of our setup.
One of our last administrators, she's now a principal at the elementary, but she was assistant at the high school. She was a licensed social worker, so she fought very hard and worked with upper administration to secure and perpetuate that funding.
Is the person who comes in separate from your SAP liaison?
No, she
That
says
is
on
the SAP liaison?
yes, because we'll have 2 of them
Okay.
that come in. We have our screener, SAP liaison, and then we have her name is Vicky, who is our behavioral health counselor, which is nice because then when they sit at the table, they already know what our concerns are with this student before they go ahead and get that, have that student sitting in front of them. They've already informed.
But she's not the same on the screen.
No, she is not our
Okay,
screener.
that's
Yes,
good.
we have two separate ones. Our screener will actually recommend that they begin behavioral health counseling. Okay, you want to talk about Renew?
Yeah,
And
super
then
quick.
we're almost there.
The top tier, tier 3, that is for the students that are showing the most challenging behaviors. And these are the ones you know, because they're in the office, you've seen them, they're in your rooms, but you're calling home every day, pulling your hair out over these kids. Renew is one of the tier 3 practices that we use. I'm the facilitator at the high school for that. Renew is just it's a mapping process. It's very specific. Everyone has specific roles to help the kids set goals, do the things they need to achieve those goals, and then plan for the next thing moving on. So there's lots of things that we do for those kids because they are your high flyers. Those are the ones that you really know there's something we need to do. And the programs we use with those kids are very individualized, they're very extensive because that's what they need at that level.
So into your folders, a lot of you have already pulled out the PowerPoint for you to take notes on, but I just want to go through what else might be in there for you. We put in 2 documents that are actually from the PBIS.org website. So this is the structure about PBIS and some of the basics, kind of PBIS 101. So you can go ahead and look through those 2 documents. One's like a quick fact sheet and the other one's a little bit more intense. Then we also have more of our supports, our personal story. There is our matrix so that you can see there. There's also just some of the other things that we have built into our PBIS, different rewards, our committees, just kind of some general information just to kind of spark your memory when you take this back. And then this last sheet that we have is something for you to do, some reflection. Whether you want to spend some time here now or whether you want to take it back to the building. And what we did was we gave you 2 triangles with listing out what each one of the tiers are looking like. You can take this to your school. What do we currently have? Where do we see gaps? Maybe we don't have tier 2 interventions, because that's actually something that we found happened to us. We built here, and we didn't have anything in the middle for those kind of middle range kids. So looking at it in this kind of structure, if you want to write in what do you have or what you would like to do. Luckily, we're the last session of this conference, so anything that may
So this is
pop in-
homework.
We'll see you next year. You can go ahead and pop in maybe some ideas and things that you came across that you would like to take into your schools. Please go ahead, you have on our slide our email, our contact information, reach out to us. And we will be here for your questions and answers if you want to come and see us.
Thank you so
Otherwise,
much for your
travel safe.
Love to look at it sometimes. It is the most. I do. Sorry, I keep on No, that's okay.
I know what my doctor's gonna look like.